What's up, folks? Sean the Average Angler coming at you with another great video, and today we've got one right in line with the times of what's going on, the time of year, the transitioning, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to take a little more in depth to help give you guys a better understanding. If you're new to the channel, you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button down there below. When we get to 5,000 subscribers, we're going to have a big bait giveaway. Probably two separate people will win. I will put together your box based on your style of fishing and maybe toss in a few average angler things that I think maybe you should try if you're not. All right. So today we are going to talk about rip baits. It's something everybody needs to have in their arsenal. Now you can kind of look at this from different angles, and maybe you're just going to be the guy who has them and throws them because he needs to from time to time. Or you can be the guy that's going to go down that rabbit hole and get really in depth and have all kinds of things to cover what you need. Now, if you just want one and move on, you're done with it, I'll have the one, I'm going to throw it. It's really hard to beat that Megabass 110. Okay, this is a Megabass 110 plus one. It's probably my favorite. They come in, of course, a ton of different types of colors and that kind of thing. They come in a 110, they come in a 110 plus one, 110 plus two, and who knows, maybe I'm not up on the times and maybe they're now coming out with a 3. I have no idea, to be honest with you, but let's give credit where credit is due, because the original jerkbait that kind of sparked this is this one right here, and you will see that I was pretty serious about it. This is the Lucky Craft Staysee. We can get one out of here. There you go, Lucky Craft Staysee. Little longer lip here, and Lucky Craft also had lots of different lips. They have lots of different size baits for different things. Now, one thing I will say about the Lucky Craft Staysee, the Megabass pointer or Megabass 110, a lot of these baits were meant to throw on lighter line. Okay, it's one of the downsides, maybe, depending on how you look at it, to throwing jerk baits. And these were lighter in the old days. The Staysee cast pretty well. You get that lip though on a windy day, and then it wouldn't cast as well. Put the Staysee away there. The Staysee's still a good one, still available, but we've kind of moved to a lot of other things. And if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend the money on a Staysee, because hey, we're on the Megabass 110, there are other options, okay? This happens to be one of them. That's the Berkley Stunna 112. So instead of 110 millimeters, it's 112. See, very similar. Is it a knockoff? I'm sure it is, right? You look at the two baits side by side, pretty darn similar. This one's half the price of this one. The lips are a little bit different shape. You know, they both work. Here's the thing about a jerkbait. It really comes down to finding a color that's close enough to what they want. I won't say that just one color is all they'll eat. That's not the case on any given day. It's the cadence. Everything about a jerkbait is about finding the right cadence. So another option in that style, but a little bit bulkier, is the Sense Provoke. Actually, 6 Sense hard baits, most of them are really, really good. The Provoke's no different. Okay, again, you're going to be down in that Berkley range, somewhere around 10 to 12 bucks, maybe a little bit less. And again, they come in all different kinds of lip sizes and body shapes. Now, what I can say about the 6 Sense is they appear a bit bulkier, not quite as slender. The problem I have with those baits, like I said, is on a windy day, they don't cast very well. The other thing, you're typically best performance is going to be on lighter line. Now, there are other baits and other options to go with, and depending on the size fish you have and bait in your body of water, This is one that used to be, and I'm sure nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is we're not throwing them anymore. This is a pointer 128, okay, 3 hook. You see pretty good sized body there, much heavier bait. Extremely good bait, okay? They come in a ton of different colors, of course, just like everything else does, right? There's a very reflective, I think that one's called American Shed. That one like a ghost minnow, and then they have a little more slender one. Now, a lot of the jerkbait fishing, you're trying to mimic whatever bait is in the lake, size, shape, those kinds of things. If you're going to go down a rabbit hole, if you just need a jerkbait and you want to fish something, any of those is a good choice. When you get to the rabbit hole, there's a whole lot of other choices. Here you'll see another pointer, much bigger lip, wider body. Again, gonna cast pretty well. This one's a bit heavier, but then we can get into some others that are really special. And this is an OSP Varuna. Okay. Has a honeycomb body, kind of famous for OSP, allows for thinner plastic and stronger. The thing about the OSP baits, and here is the Rudra, which you'll see is substantially longer. These can be fished a bit more aggressively, also on a little bit heavier line. So it gives us something that we're not getting from the others. This is why I say you're going down a rabbit hole, because we're getting more and more baits that are very situational. Now, you could just go with these to begin with. They are pricey. OSP's good stuff. They are in the 20-something range also, much like the Megabass. Well, I'll tell you, when you got 3 hooks, man, it's hard to believe when you get a hit on one of these things and you don't hook one, because when you're handling them in the box, all that other kind of stuff, they seem to hook everything. All right, now one kind of thing that is lip design. You'll see, if we can capture it right here, this angled lip. So the lip is cut at an angle there. This is another OSP Varuna 110. So we're in that same size. I thought I had one where you could see, because OSP uses a little different weighting. Okay, fixed weights here and here. It's going to allow us to fish that bait a little more aggressively, okay? And heavier lines, still get down to depth, still do its work. It's something that most of these others have a single weight. If I can find, you'll see the weight system is nothing new, because this here on this pointer 128, I've had this bait for probably 12 to 15 years. The weighting is there to position how that bait sits in the water, whether it's neutral, nose down. The other thing is it's there to help suspend that bait at whatever depth it's designed to get to. Now, most of these baits are suspenders, meaning when you get them down to depth that they're going to be worked in, they're going to hang around in that depth. I don't know what happened, but in the old days, when we had the rogues in those things, most of them were floaters. You stopped moving them, they started to slow float up. And as people started messing with baits and adjusting them, they started looking to either slow sink or neutrally buoyant. But I think most of the time, a slow float would be better, because when fish sit in the water, they don't normally start to go down, but up is a little more natural. Now, one thing to keep in mind when we're fishing jerk baits, if you're looking at them on forward facing, or even if you're just looking on 2D and you see they're hanging out in a certain depth, we want to pick a bait to stay above the fish. The fish are going to want to feed up. It's very rare for them to move down to a bait. A lot of times they will lose interest when your bait gets underneath them. Now, choosing a rod for jerk baits can be a very finicky thing. If you get the wrong rod, you're really not going to get the right action. Now, some of these baits are more forgiving than others. The Stunna, the Megabass, let's just call them finicky. If you jerk the bait too much, it doesn't work right. It needs to have a more subtle jerk to it. So you need a rod that's going to, the tip is going to bend and load. This is a little stiff, but you need a tip that's going to give pretty easy so that when you jerk that bait, it can naturally pull back on it. That natural pullback is the load in the tip. Now this is a 7'6" cranking rod, so it's a little bit stiffer than what we would want for the jerkbait. Typically on those Megabass and the Stunnas, we're going to be talking about something 6'8" to 7 foot, medium light to medium, depending on the brand and the material you get. Glass doesn't rebound quite as fast as graphite, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of good rods out there. X-Pride is kind of the 6'10". I think it's a medium. Very difficult to get. It's kind of known to be the benchmark of jerkbait rods. However, if you get into some of the Rudra, Varunas, the OSP stuff, a little bit more forgiving. The bigger pointers and that stuff, the 128 I showed you, it's a bigger bait, heavier bait. It is meant to be hit a little bit harder and worked faster than some of those other ones. It's just the design. So we could end up with several rods. Now, a lot of times I can use a shorter 7 foot to 7'2" cranking rod for some of those other baits, whereas it doesn't give me the best action out of my Megabass or Stunnas. So it is something to consider. If you're going down the rabbit hole, you're probably going to have several rods for throwing different jerk baits. And then the third thing is going to be line size. Like I mentioned, the Megabass, the Stunna, much better performance out of lighter line. Some of these bigger baits you can get away with going up a little bit. Now, most of the time we're fishing jerk baits in relatively open water, so it's not that big a deal. Typically, if you have the right action, which you should when you're picking your jerk baits, you want to get the right action on there, as we just talked about. That also gives you the ability to play fish a bit more. If you want to fish jerk baits and have the best success you possibly can, spend some time with them. Make sure you get a rod that's appropriate for the baits you're putting on it. Now, a lot of these rods can cross over to smaller crankbaits, top waters, these kinds of things, but you don't want to get too heavy of an action. And I think that's one thing that people tend to do, is they'll just grab a different rod and throw their jerkbait on it. If you want to maximize and have the best success out of your jerkbaits, you really need a specific rod for your jerk. Reason I talked about this is because this time of year, basically through to the spring, jerkbaits can be a very powerful tool. They will call fish up. They will catch suspended fish. They just trigger bites. It's something I need to fish more. I used to fish them more. You just get away from stuff sometimes when you get all these new baits that come out and blur the average angler's mind. All right. Hope that helped. I'm Sean, the Average Angler. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.